Hey everyone, it's Argonath here from The Right Way, and I said this before in my previous videos. We're going down the realm of segregation in New Zealand, and it's only going to hurt the minority groups that this government is supposed to be so good at looking after. Um, so we're going to have the segregated sections of vaccinated versus unvaccinated, and the unvaccinated is largely made up of people from minority groups. Um, so let's have a read of this article and we can just see how the Labour government doesn't actually give a shit about any of you minority people, except when it comes to an election, and then they'll promise you everything, but they won't actually get anything done to actually help you. So let's have a read of this. A Whanganui iwi leader, so iwi is, if you're not from New Zealand, that's the leader of a Maori tribe. So the iwi leader says reaction to unvaccinated workers is splitting local workplaces and leaving people distraught, frightened and fearful for their jobs. So New Zealand has just made it mandatory for any retail shops or other businesses that require customers to have vaccination passports. Any workers at those places must also have vaccination passports, which means they must be vaccinated to work. So basically, if you're unvaccinated, you don't get a job. And that's roughly about 40% of New Zealand's workforce. That's almost half of New Zealand's workforce. Ken Meyer, an unemployment relations mediator for nearly 40 years, said COVID-19 vaccination requirements were causing division and fear in Whanganui work sites, and unvaccinated workers suffering a backlash were predominantly Maori because they are the lower group who are dragging the chain in terms of vaccinations. Now, I've always said I don't agree with mandated vaccinations. You shouldn't be forced to do something to your body that you don't want to do. And I'm also against mandated vaccinations for workers, right? So I believe you should still carry on working even if you're not vaccinated, because as we know, even if you're vaccinated, you can still get the virus and pass it on. It might be at a lower rate, but you can still pass it on. And if you're vaccinated, then what's the problem? You're vaccinated, right? It's supposed to severely reduce the symptoms of the disease. And even if you had to go to hospital, it's be a very rare amongst the vaccinated people. In fact, it's a disease of the unvaccinated. So if people choose to not get vaccinated, that's their choice. Let them live with it, right? Let them suffer the consequences. Under sweeping COVID-19 policy changes announced yesterday, the government said more of New Zealand's workforce will be required to be vaccinated or lose their jobs. I have major concern in particular for Maori workers about how they're being treated, ostracised, isolated and alienated. Some of them are really concerned around losing their jobs, and also what's the next step. Do they get charged? Are they made criminals for the decision that they've made? In the workplace, I can see a major fallout and division, people being distraught, really frightened for their well-being, for their whānau's well-being, their economic well-being. The impact upon the Maori community will be massive. I said this before, this is only going to hurt the people that this Labour government is supposed to be looking after and pander to so well. But I don't know how long it's going to take for the Maori community to get to the idea, to see it, that the Labour Party does not do you any favours. They pander to you, they make all these promises, but they don't actually do anything to you, right? The best way to get out of poverty is to get an education. Might be too late for some of your parents, but if you can encourage your children to get educated as much as possible, that is the best way to get out of poverty. Okay, so my parents didn't have any schools. They came from a different country to New Zealand. They opened their own business and ran a business for well on 20 years. And they managed to get me through university. So now I have a really well-paying job, and I'm quite well off. And now my children are going through university as well. So education helps you and your family in the future. So encourage your kids to get educated as much as possible, as much as they can do. They don't have to go to university. You can go to a trade school, learn some skills, be an apprentice. It's all about getting a university degree. There's some really good people out there doing trades work and getting a lot of money out of that as well. Mea, who's been double vaccinated, is also negotiating treaty claims for his iwi as chair of the Whanganui Land Settlement Negotiation Trust. He said he has spoken to both employees and employers in several Whanganui workplaces in the past 2 weeks, and it was time for frank discussion with iwi, community leaders, local government leaders, and the government. This divisiveness, people left on the outside and not the appropriate way, is not the appropriate way to deal with each other within the workplace. Exactly. Just let everyone get together, because eventually the virus is going to infect everyone. You just cannot get around this, right? You cannot go back to zero COVID status. It's not going to happen. So why are you putting all of these people through so much frustration and being scared and frightened when you're supposed to be helping these particular people? You're dividing them out of the community. You're segregating them. We started off with a clear statement. Let's be kind to each other. This is the government's sayings, right? Let's be kind to each other. Let's look after each other. Let's be a team of 5. I hate that term, team of 5 million. If you hate it as well, let me know in the comments section. That's one of the terms that I absolutely hate, because you know it was thought up by some bloody PR person. Let's stay strong together. Sadly, I'm not seeing that happening within my workplace that I've been into in the last 2 weeks. What I'm seeing is quite the opposite. Don't vote for the Labour Party anymore. Otherwise, you'll just get the same thing. They'll pander to you, make you promises, and then break those promises. I would certainly encourage people to be vaccinated. However, the reality is that a large number of Maori workers haven't accepted that they should be vaccinated from their perspective for very good reasons, and therefore we have to look to other options to ensure the health and well-being of all within our community. Mayor said that concerned workers and employers, and not just Maori, had come to him with suggestions for alternative workplace measures, including wearing masks, good ventilation, taking workers' temperatures daily, and frequent saliva testing. So, currently in New Zealand, just this week, the last 3 years of high school, all of those students have all gone back to school. They have to wear masks, they have to be socially distanced in their classrooms, and the classrooms need to have good ventilation. If it's good enough for school children, it should be good enough for workplaces. It shouldn't make any difference. But this government is absolutely stupid. They cannot see this, right? I would be calling on the government to roll out these kinds of initiatives to ensure that everybody feels safe within their workplace, within our community. These options need to be seriously looked at as part of the strategy. 25 very large businesses in the country have been given the go-ahead to getting 300,000 rapid antigen tests into the country. That should be an opportunity also for our community here in Whanganui and throughout the country. Those type of initiatives are what we need to seriously look at to ensure the health and well-being of workplaces right across the board. A coalition of some of New Zealand's biggest freight, aviation, manufacturing, energy, food production, telecommunications and aged care businesses has been granted an exemption by the Director General of Health to import and use approved rapid antigen tests. Mayor said the coalition includes Main Freight, Foodstuffs, Air New Zealand, The Warehouse and Vodafone. We should be sitting down with the government and saying we want the same for this community. Employers were also in a difficult position. So again, the government is segregating New Zealand society. They're only harming the people that they say they care about. They don't give a shit about you. Not that any of those particular people would actually be watching my video anyway, but if you know some of these people, tell them to look with their eyes, listen with their ears, and look through the spin the government puts out. They are doing you a disservice. They are not looking after you. They say they will, but they don't. So don't vote for them in the next election. Alright, well that's it from me for this particular video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, you're welcome to give it a thumbs down. And if you like my content, please subscribe, as it will help the YouTube algorithm to notice my content. So that's all for this video. Hopefully I will catch you in the next video.